What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe.
What's up, man? We got Nick Underhill, neworleans.football. He is en route to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. We're getting ready to head out to practice ourselves. Nick, check it out. We've been doing a little advanced scouting here. What do you know about Jalix Hunt?
Not a whole lot. To be honest, I go out here. I kind of start to do my work.
Let me help you out here.
He's got a point. He'll get there.
Let me help you out here, Nick, because Jalix Hunt is a edge rusher from where was it? He is an edge rusher from Texas Christian. No,
Houston Christian.
Houston Christian. Edge rusher, Houston Christian. I'm guessing he probably has like a 9-something relative athletic score. I feel like this is perfect for Saints in the first round.
All right. Well, I don't watch a lot of Houston Christian football, so I'm going to feel okay about being stumped on this one a little bit. But, I mean, for me, I come out here, and it's kind of where I start gathering my information and start doing the draft. It's kind of that division point. Like, you're doing the autopsy of the season right up to it, and you come out here and you kind of, get a touch on a lot of different things. I do think there's a handful of guys that are good options in this Senior Bowl. I think they're saying there's like 10 first-rounders that are supposed to be here this year. Last year there were about 2. I like the edge rusher from UCLA. There's a lot of good offensive linemen. So I think for the Saints, is they're looking for people, to fill those immediate needs. And I think 1 and 2 are O-line, D-line. I think there's a handful of guys out here, and they typically like to draft out of the Senior Bowl. I mean, you go through the history, there's a ton of players that they got exposed to here, and then UDFAs as well. They got Phil Galliano on the staff, so they're going to get a little bit of inside information. He's the assistant special teams coach. He'll be out there, so he'll be in those locker rooms and kind of get to know some of these guys, and that helps check off that character box a little bit. So, it should be a productive week for them. And, by the way, they're still looking for that offensive coordinator, so I think there's probably going to be a lot going on with that this week as well.
Yeah, and I fumbled the joke, right? But the joke was obviously the Saints love to draft no-name guys, edge rushers that have high RASs. But but when it comes to the Senior Bowl, I want to get to the OC search in a second. But when it comes to the Senior Bowl, we talked to Sam Hartman earlier, and he called it the Triple Crown, right? Senior Bowl, Combine, Pro Day. I'm kind of the opinion that this is maybe the most impactful week if I'm scouting, because these are actual football activities. You're really pushing these guys mentally and physically. You're seeing how they adjust to a new environment, a more professional environment. Do you, if you're scoring them, I know you have to look at the whole picture, but where does this rank amongst your kind of scouting process?
Yeah, it's real football. And to your joke, the joke was so good that I took it seriously because, that's actually something that they would do. So, it was too effective. But yeah, look, as far as compared to the combine, if you're talking about the football stuff, this is real football, and that's not. So I think you have questions about guys, they get answered here. I think if there's the ability to climb up the draft board, that actually kind of happens here. For a guy the name escapes me, but the quarterback from Toledo that's out here, he's supposed to be allegedly the most talented cornerback in the draft, but you got to go out here and prove it against actual competition that you didn't play at Toledo and colleges that people are actually watching on Saturday. So for a guy like him, it's incredibly important too. So there's a ton of stuff that I think comes out of here that actually does impact the scouting and the ranking of players. Whereas at the combine, I think it's just kind of more, you're meeting with them, you're making sure the personality isn't weird, you're making sure the medicals are good. Where here it's actually more about football. So this one in the Shrine Bowl, I think, actually do have an impact on maybe how people view players. Whereas at the combine, I think it's already kind of set. It's just this guy's a little bit faster, so let's move him up a spot or two. But I don't think that the ability to kind of change the whole opinion exists anywhere else like it does here.
Nick, are you surprised that the Saints don't have an offensive coordinator in place? Because, like, this is a very impactful week because the next offensive coordinator, we were talking about before you came on, he is literally the head coach of the offense. Like, it's all his. It's not like you have a head coach that's going to call the plays or affect the offense. He's on the defensive side of the football. So are you surprised that they don't have somebody in place heading into the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl?
Yeah, look, I think that I think that's right. I mean, the biggest impact about not having the guy in place is that if you're going through the scouting process, the sooner you know exactly what you need to fill out your scheme and the types of players somebody wants to make it effective, the better, because you are scouting with that in mind then. But I do think you can kind of come in afterwards and look at the players, go through the reports and all that stuff, and you're still kind of scouting everyone. So it's just, I think just for the cohesiveness, that helps a little bit. But, I mean, there still are 12 teams that don't have an OC. I mean, this is kind of the process being it is. If you are one of your teams, and I think we all know the Saints they aren't the Eagles. Like, you aren't having anyone race to come to your job right away. For everyone else that's in Tier 2, Tier 3, I think they're all kind of in the same place. My understanding of it is that they kind of zeroed in on who they're looking at. They're kind of whittling that list down to the finalists, still doing some, cross checks, talking to a couple other people just to make sure. But I think they know where they want to go with it as far as like the last couple candidates. But there are kind of like league rules that slow things down. You kind of have to play on the league's process as far as who you can talk to them, all that stuff. So I think that there's a very clear understanding of where they want to go, but there's just things that are in place that are kind of, you have to go through before you can start to finalize who you want to hire.
You're not willing to share those names yet, are you?
Well, I don't know for sure, but I think if you look at it and you thought, who are the guys that you can't necessarily finalize things with? I mean, I think it's,
Kubiak and Greasy?
That leads you to a couple places, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that leads you to a couple places, but, like, I don't know it for sure. I just kind of have gotten an understanding that, like, there's a process and you have to follow the process a little bit. So if I were to, if things are slow, I mean, there's a couple places that you can go logically. But again, like, I honest to God have not heard names of anything. It's just kind of like, this is a process. This is why it's going this way. And, if I look at it, it leads me to like, or like one of these guys in the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah.
As far as trying to finalize everything. So, or maybe they just want to talk to him again before it goes. But I mean, I do know that they kind of know there's like a couple names, maybe 2 or 3 I heard, and they kind of know that it's whittled down to that list. And, I think they're going to work the process from there. So it seems stalled, but I think there actually is progress going on behind the scenes.
I'm just curious, like, if they'll try to stay maybe within the same style that they had, if they're looking for something that's maybe a little bit different, Nick, as far as just offensive philosophy. Because obviously, like, Pete Carmichael was going to try to run a lot of the same things that Sean Payton did. And there's so many different ways that teams are running offenses in the NFL. Like, used to, it felt like everybody was, it was called pro-style offense for a reason because everybody in the pros was running it. Like, I guess, like, what would you expect there? Would you expect them to go more of what they've had over the last 2 decades, or do you think they're looking for something completely different?
So, like, are you asking, like, Ronald Curry, John Gruden versus, like, everybody else?
Right, yes.
So, like, I don't – like, I would be absolutely shocked if John Gruden's the head coach or the offensive coordinator. I'm sorry. I would be absolutely shocked if John Gruden's the offensive coordinator. I don't think that's going to be something that happens. I just don't see it. I don't think you run the process the way that they've run it to go there. Like, my head would kind of explode if they because I would be so surprised by it. Like, I just don't see that coming. Okay. I don't think it's going to be a thing. As far as, like, the passing game, I think they want something different. I think they want more out of it than they've had. I think they want it to look different. I think they want the motion and the play action and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be somebody that hasn't touched, anything to do with the Saints to this point. And that's not a knockout. Like, I think Curry's probably going to have a great career. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about him. I just think that, everybody was in that room last year and it didn't change. And granted, he didn't have the authority to make that happen, but yeah. I just think that they want different. Everything I've heard is that they kind of want to move beyond that, and things sometimes change. And like if it ended up being Curry, I wouldn't be totally shocked. But I just don't. If I have money to put on it, I would go outside the building for sure. I think that the direction they want to go is very clear, and I think if you just kind of look at the pattern of the people they've talked to and the pedigree and how many of them come from the same place, I would be shocked if they don't end up in that Shanahan tree, that McVay tree somewhere. So it seems pretty clear to me that's the way they want to go.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.